there.
Hey. Hello and welcome.
Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts.
My name's Anthony Ihrig, the other host.
And today I am in the same room, the same box, with our guest today, Jordan Hamilton, joining us here from and we are here at the Focal Nights Regional Midwest Conference just outside Chicago. This is again, a music conference for folk and roots and related genre musicians to come together, play music, have workshops, panels, that kind of thing. And yeah, we thought we'd get one of the official showcasing artists to join us as our guest today and do this in person. So I would be doing this from a hotel room no matter what this week. So I thought I might as well do it, not be lonely over here. So thanks to Jordan for joining us, and thanks to all of you for coming in right on time on this Friday afternoon. I'm guessing folks are ready for happy hour. Hi, Connie. And Alan joining us from Texas, not letting any vermouth go to waste. Well, good for you, Alan. And Joe coming in from South Minneapolis, and just hearing the intro music cheers me up. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe.
And Tony, how are things in Minneapolis?
Things are really nice here. It's almost 70 degrees. It's sunny. It's really a beautiful fall Friday here in Minneapolis.
Nice. And what are you drinking on to celebrate this warm weather?
You know, I'm going with a little fall cider action. So this is the Ace dry cider, and it's delicious. It just tastes like the season.
Nice.
Plus a little booze.
Excellent. Well, I am. I just have a stash of stuff to go keep me going through the weekend, and right now I am enjoying a little. Let's see, Jameson. Right. And this hotel is fancy enough that they gave us real glasses. They did. I mean, they trust us. I don't know why they're trusting a bunch of folk musicians with real glassware, but apparently they are. So not like the hotels I usually stay in, that are like the shrink wrapped plastic.
Right.
And Jordan, are you enjoying anything as well?
Yeah, I'm having a Jameson too, but in a Starbucks.
Yeah.
All right.
Neato there.
Our friend Chris is enjoying Uda Pills in Savage, Minnesota. Hey, Chris, welcome.
Yeah. Well, we are so happy to have you all here today on the Back Catalog Listening Party. We're excited to do this fun experiment. And hi, Penny. And yeah, if you're tuned into the show, tell us where you're tuned in from. If you're enjoying a beverage or a snack to kick off your weekend. Again, this show is the show where we invite different guest artists like Jordan to revisit old records and talk about them, answer your questions live. So we are really excited to have Jordan Hamilton with us today. As I mentioned, Jordan's one of the official showcasing artists, and I would love, and he is from Kalamazoo, Michigan, or lives there now. And so I'd love for folks who maybe aren't as familiar with his music, I would love you, Jordan, to like say a little bit about where you grew up, how you fell into playing cello and making the music that you make.
Yeah. So I grew up in Maryland, where I went to public schools that had music programs, and the elementary school came to my classroom in second grade or third grade and was like presenting violin, viola, cello. And she played the cello, and the story goes like I heard it, I got up, ran down the aisle, I was like, I want to play cello, I want to play cello. So I've been playing cello ever since, and mostly studying classical music from grade school through undergrad. And then as I went to get my master's in Kalamazoo, which is how I got to Kalamazoo, I had this maybe determination, or like I wanted to figure out where else the cello could fit inside of my musical expression. So not just in orchestras, or not just in chamber music or solo music stuff, but what other styles of music could I play? What other functions as a musician could I serve other than like reinterpreting what composers already wrote? So writing music, covering sort of songs that are not inside the classical tradition. So that's why I started when I came to Kalamazoo, and there I found a group that I play with called Last Gasp Collective, and then I started making my own music, and I released a couple of records at a time. I mostly have been releasing EPs because to start the task of like releasing a whole full-length album is a huge deal and expensive. I can see the studio, so
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's daunting. So I didn't want to like do that right off the bat, and because you can get sort of stage fright or like it'll be paralyzing. So I was just doing small things here and there. So I released, and I was still finding my style. I still am finding my style. So I'm releasing small things here and there. And this Vibrations record was the one that I wanted to sort of dedicate to my the practices that I was doing back before I started this journey. So it was like my ode to classical music, but with my own twist on it. So how I want to hear some of the classical music these days, or the collection of songs I will put around classical music these days. And so that's what this record is. And I called it Vibrations because there's no lyrics on it. So it's just sounds. And that's one of the things I loved about instrumental music, or like coming up and playing classical music, is like there's no words. So the meaning is completely up to you. I mean, obviously there's meaning that the composers put up to it, but like when people listen to the music, they just let it take you wherever you want to go. So that's what this record is, and it's my interpretation of that practice.
Excellent.
Very cool.
Well, we are very excited to dive into this and to talk more about all the different approaches you take to the cello. And also I'm excited because it's called Vibrations, and I want to talk more about this a little bit later, but about the actual instrument itself. I mean, it also has its own, when you play a cello, as even more so than maybe some other stringed instruments, you're so close to it, your body's right in there with it. So so we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But right now, let's just dive into the music, because I'm ready for the music.
Yeah, me too.
And the first track that you picked to feature from this record, Vibrations, is Diatomic, not to be confused with Diatonic for you music nerds out there. I'm assuming that's a twist on that, right?
Right, Diatomic. Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say about this track before you take a listen?
I have like meanings that I wanted. This is kind of like when I was originally making this, I was thinking it was a love song, and I was thinking of somebody else's too. So that's where the Diatomic came from, because it's like two atoms coming together. So it's not really a love song, but as I was thinking of it, I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna show for this song, and it's gonna be."
This song is gonna do it, yeah.
So it's whatever. But.
Well, that's the beauty of instrumental music, though. Like you said, is we can all assign whatever feelings we feel while we listen to it. So let's do that right now. This is Jordan Hamilton, Diatomic, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. That is Jordan Hamilton with Diatomic here on the back catalog listening party. And
it sounded so good, and I was really grooving on that. What a way to kind of mellow me out for the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, why don't you get a little closer?
I can hear the love song in that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I was, again, lots of vibes on that, and really kind of jazzy on that track.
Yeah.
So I want to know, I'm sure you have a ton of questions too, Tony, and I tried not to ask Jordan all these questions before we came on. I had lots, but one of them I was curious about is, obviously there's cello on there. That's your main instrument. But there's a lot of other things happening on it. But I want to know do you know how many cello parts are on there right now?
No. Not as many as I usually do. So maybe I might have like maybe 16 to 30 layers of cello in there or less, So make 30 being the most, probably not that, because the producer that I worked with on this, he likes to do like minimal. And when I'm producing my own stuff, I'll like do hundreds of cello. But
that's the classical part of me, right?
Yeah. So, but this one, I'm pretty sure it's probably in between 15 to 20 or 25.
Wow. That's amazing.
And all those other, sounds we're hearing, like the keys and the voice and stuff, is that all you, or did you bring some people together?
Yeah, so this record features Grayson on piano, and he's the one that usually plays in my trio. So I sent the tracks to him later in the process, and he just added some things and some piano. Lasso, or Andy Catlin, the producer that I worked with for this, he's playing some of the keys or stuff. I don't know if he played. And help making the drums as well.
Oh, nice.
And then, that's it. Other than that, it's a lot of cello. So
that's great. And what's so cool about, many stringed instruments, and cello especially, because it has such a wide range of both, just in terms of the sonic range of the notes, is that you can make a lot of different sounds on the cello, right?
Yep.
Obviously you can pluck it, you can bow it, you can tap on it, you can do all kinds of different stuff. But were these raw cello sounds that you sort of fed through filters after you recorded them, or were you actually kind of were you working with an electric cello or different kinds of cellos?
Yeah, I think for this record, it was all acoustic cello. At the time, my electric cello had a pickup that was kind of noisy on it, so we ended up abandoning that and then going to acoustic cello. And then we added effect processing to it after.
Right, just like you would offer effects to any other instrument when you're recording the record.
There's something about the contrast of that, like the acoustic sound, that you get from a microphone with the electronic sounds around it, that I think is really cool. Yeah,
you rarely hear that. Rarely hear that.
Yeah. And then Chris has a question that's good, and I'm excited. Of course, I'll get the answer to this later, Chris. But when I get to see Jordan perform tonight as part of his official showcase at the Folk Alliance Regional Midwest Conference, where we are at in Chicago. But he asks, with all the layering, how do you play your music live? So do you use a looping pedal, or what do you do?
Yeah, so it depends. Like my shows vary depending on like what ensembles I have. So I don't usually play this record live unless I have the trio that I play with. So the keyboardist and then the producer, we do a set live. And the producer, I give him stems for the tracks, and he runs those stems through Ableton Live. And then the keyboardist adds in that, and then I play the cello and use my vocals while I do it. So, and some layers may get lost, and so we take some of them out. So we leave space in the live performances so we can add stuff onto it live.
So you're like, playing stuff live over some of those things.
Yeah.
And when you say stems, for folks who are like not in the know and don't know the musical lingo, you want to describe what that means?
Yeah, stems are just the layers of that are in the track, exported as individual MP3 or WAV files, and you play those individual files together. So
it'll be like one part, essentially, is what you're saying.
One
musical part.
Yeah.
Wow. And so it sounds like prepping for a show like that, if it's not one you've done before, even a piece you haven't done before, probably takes a lot of preparation to get all those tracks in order and stuff.
Yeah, it takes hours. And then when you rehearse with it, it's not going to sound exactly like the music because it's all the files are playing separately. So you're mixing it and you're adjusting it. And
in
then
real time, you're mixing it.
yeah. And the producer, he's taking these instruments and he's putting them in and taking them out, so it can have that live effect. So it's not just, you're listening to the track like we just did. It's very like playing with the stems in that trio is really cool.
Mm-hmm. It's like another instrument.
Yeah, each of the stems are like instruments. So that's how it's.
And probably, I mean, I'm guessing you probably work usually with the same person, but I bet if you, of course, brought in someone different to even work with the same stems and pieces, it would sound completely different, right?
I can't even imagine doing it with a different person. It's it's not done that much.
Yeah. Usually you work with the same person for years. Yeah. And it's not like when like a band might have a guitarist or a bass player and they're like, okay, I can learn the parts and just come in. It's like it's a lot more complex than that because you have all these pieces. It's not just one instrument.
Yeah.
Well, and kind of speaking of like, that idea of, if you bring someone else in, it's going to sound different. I'm curious about the songs themselves in terms of like how different they become when you perform them live versus what you recorded. Like, do you ever try to recreate it exactly, or is it always a slightly different piece?
I mean, for the most part, it is kind of exactly the same. Like, I'm going to do this song live. I'm going to do this whole record live in March, and it's pretty much going to be exactly like the track, exactly like the record, but we leave room for interpretation. Like, there's going to be certain cello lines that I leave out so I can play that live. There's going to be certain like keyboard lines that I leave out so we can interpret it.
So it can be a little more improvisational.
Yeah. So, the form of it and like the general context of it is going to be pretty much like the record, but there's going to be individual small moments in there that's going to be a little different.
Very cool. And one of the things I noticed on that track, as Tony mentioned, there were, some other instruments going on, but, there was also some vocals. And we were talking off mic, and you were saying that was you doing all those vocals. And, obviously you came to this music through the cello. But obviously we all have our voices. Have you always incorporated your own voice into this, or was this like something newer you tried on this record?
Well, first off, I always find it really funny because I would get kicked out of chorus class because I would refuse to sing, and now I sing for a living. It's pretty hilarious. And then with this record, I didn't want to do lyrics, so I'm a big fan of like hearing the voice in Bobby McFerrin and stuff as an instrument.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, just the closest thing I got to a lyric on this record is that opening part. And in my mind, I was literally thinking, I've been feeling tried, baby.
Oh, nice.
But you can't really hear that because I'm singing that. And then I just add layers to that. And then slept around all the grounds, I follow all the rounds, I follow around, suck all the round, follow around. It's like I like the cadence of that because, and when I'm listening to like lyrics and stuff, like I'm rarely hearing the lyrics for the first time. Like I just like the rhythm and the cadence of it. So I'm a big fan of like just mumbling stuff sometimes. Then each time I listen to it, I'm coming up with different meanings for these words. But some of them I have like clear ideas of like, this was the lyric I was thinking of. I'm just not going to say it. And then,
Interesting. That's really
super
great.
Cool.
And Joe says, I was thinking Bobby McFerrin when he heard the vocals.
Huge influence.
Yeah.
Huge.
Well, and that's so funny because that you mentioned that, because I feel like so many artists we've talked to here on Back Catalog Listening Party, whether they consider themselves singers or instrumentalists, so many people said that they thought they couldn't sing or they didn't sing for a long time, and because they got kicked out of choir, or they didn't feel like they were a good singer. But I think it's when people rethink how you can use your voice, that it is an instrument, that it's not just used for one thing. It doesn't have to be the center of everything. It can just be one of many layers, which is what you did on this track.
And without the words, it can mean so many other things, and you can interpret meaning from the rhythms that you're using it to make the melodies. And if I'm correct, like, isn't the cello one of the closest instruments to the human vocal range? So like, what a great tie-in there too. I mean, you're already singing in that range with your instrument as well.
Yep. And that's how it kind of started. I would just harmonize when I was practicing scales. I would just harmonize with the instrument so I can get my tuning a little bit better. And then that's kind of the excuse that I had to use for my voice. And then I just started getting more and more comfortable with it. So,
yeah, that's great. Well, if you're out there listening, if you have any questions for Jordan as we go along, feel free to throw them in the comments, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. And yeah, I have a feeling we're gonna be digging into a lot of cool stuff in these tracks. And this next track that you picked to feature is called Circuits. Is there anything you want to say about this before you take a listen?
All of these titles are sort of not science terms, but like energy terms. So like circuits, solar, tidal, like these are all things like tidal waves, solar, like solar energy, diatomic, like that's, you know, atoms and stuff. Circuits is like the electrical energy. So that's, you know, I was trying to figure out what sort of energy terms or like scientific terms match with the energy in each of the songs. And this one kind of felt like repetitive cycles and going through loops. So that's what this one is about.
Nice. And so appropriate for an album called Vibrations. I love it. All right, well, let's take a listen. This is Circuits from Jordan Hamilton here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
All right, Jordan Hamilton here on the Back Catalog Listening Party with Circuits from his album Vibrations, which we are revisiting today. And this came out 2021, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I know it's hard to keep track. What year is it? I don't know. But if you like what you hear, and man, I was so into that track. And the one regret I had, though, Tony, is that unlike you, we're not listening through good headphones right now.
I got to tell you, it sounds so good in headphones. I was lamenting for that as well for you for this episode because, man, it sounds so good. And I bet you it sounds even better when it's not going through the YouTube pipes and kind of getting crushed down. So I want to point out that Jordan does have physical copies available as well as digital downloads. And if you do the digital download thing, get the WAV file, get the FLAC file, get the high resolution version because it sounds really fantastic, especially with some nice headphones on.
Yeah. So one of the things, the reason I mentioned the headphones is that even listening here on the computer as we were doing from this hotel room, is that I could still even then hear the pan that it was going from like left to right. And I was just thinking, if I was just immersed in this sound, it would be amazing in headphones. So Jordan, maybe you could tell us a little bit about this track and did you always envision it to do that back and forth with the composition, or was that something you decided to do later in post production?
Yeah, that was later in post. That was later in post for sure. Most of the ideas I have for that song were just created on the loop pedal. I just had that doom goom 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 goom, and then the melody, and then some of the harmonies. I had those pre, and then I went into the studio with Lasso, and we had some other idea. He did the one synth solo that's in the middle, and then I had the drum idea kind of in my head too, but he added some other stuff in there, and I'm clapping, and then it was cool. Like we took a drum kit and recorded each sound, and then we just kind of affected those, and then we would play with the effects to kind of get different sounds. So in post, some of that panning was coming from a pedal. So we had a pedal and we plugged that in, and it was just doing that by itself. He works at Vintage King, so it's like he had access to like a bunch of like good pedals. So we were just trying that out on cello. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's and I loved some of the almost circuit sounds that you guys were getting out from. I don't know if it was another pedal that was like adjusting the modulation or something. It was getting really fast and really slow. I wasn't sure exactly what was going on, but there was parts that sounded like your cello was a horn. Really interesting.
That's what I like. I like the cello to not always sound like the cello.
Yeah. Well, and that's something I think that that Tony and I talk about. I mean, playing banjos as both of us do, is that people always assume, it can only make one sound. It can only sound like fast bluegrass music, or it can only sound like high and like I said, speedy, and not like, you actually have a snare drum on your instrument. You can do all kinds of things with the sound from a banjo. And I think similarly with the cello, I think, but something that Jordan and I were talking about right before we came on is it seems like to be like cello is starting to have more of its moments.
Yeah.
I don't know. We were just talking about how many more like cellos. I was like, there seems to be a little more present even in more popular music. Like I'm seeing more cellos. Are you finding that? And are you happy about that? Or are you kind of like,
it's our time
come on, I've been doing this for years.
No, it's our time to shine. I think it's years of us looking at violin players get all the shine. We're coming for it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Getting back to something I kind of referenced earlier, but I was thinking about, especially in this track, because it was more acoustic, so we could kind of, and the sonics you were using a lot more sort of plucking and percussive sounds on the cello, could really get a sense of that, like the woodiness and the strings and all the tactile things of a cello. And one thing I'd love to talk more about, again, you called this vibrations. I would love to ask you how much, again, being physically close to the instrument, does that and especially playing acoustic cello versus like playing an electric where you don't get the actual sensory feeling of the vibrations, how much does that affect your compositions and how you play?
It's huge. I think it's been one of the drivers for me playing cello is being able to feel the vibrations on my chest. And I didn't necessarily notice at the time, but as I look back and reflect on, just life in general, I'm thinking like, okay, why did I play cello so long? And why do I enjoy cello? And that's one of the things, that's one of the huge things. And also when I'm playing different electric cellos, the ones that don't have like a body, cause mine, it's not, I don't see it a lot and I can't find it anywhere, but I do get vibrations on that cello. Like I can feel the cello moving on that because it's like a semi-hollow. Yeah. But the other ones, I can't feel it and I can't get attached to it. Like it's harder for me to know like where stuff is, like, because I'm also finding that like my hands move like some when you're playing guitar, it's very like tactile. Like you look and you know where the fret is, and so you move. But my hands are so connected to like my ears. It's like ears tell my hand where to go. So if I can't feel it, because sometimes it's loud, you can't hear the cello. So my body sometimes is listening to it and it's telling my fingers to adjust millimeters. And I didn't understand it was doing that. But when I started playing, I played like a little skinny electric cello. And I didn't have that. And I was like, whoa, that's got to be it. I don't know why I can't move, but that's it.
It's the vibrations, right? I mean, it really is. I mean, like music is vibration. And anyways, I want to make sure I circle back to a couple of comments that Joe had. He's talking about the rhythms here, incredible rhythms going on. And then he wanted to circle back to that and ask about special time signatures. And he says, enlighten me. Any Brubeck in your past?
No, dude. No. But I mean, it isn't an odd meter. So, and Brubeck has like that famous song, the Take 5 song. And so that's why I can be reminded of that. But this is in 7, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, and then also in that diatomic song, there's like a couple of in the bridge of the song, it's in the odd meter as well. So
it's that classical background coming.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
be careful in those folk jams at the Folk Alliance. You know, you throw in a measure of 7, and everything's going to implode.
Yeah,
like, where's our 4?
I know, but I love a good group. So, I mean,
man.
So it's like a good. I could listen to a 4 all day, but you know, a good odd meter that doesn't sound like it's in an odd meter. That's it for me.
I think you're right. I think there's something to it where it's like more complex. Like I'm sure we all have tunes. Like every once in a while, there's even a pop song where I'm like, where you like learn how to play and you're like, why is this so hard? And you're like, oh, it's a weird meter, and I never even noticed. But that's like a magic. If it sounds simple enough that you can get hooked in, but yet and it doesn't feel esoteric, but yet then when you're like, oh, this is more complex than you think it is.
Right. I love that.
It's sneaky. We like sneaky meters here. And we got some other questions in here. Joni said she came in a few minutes late, but she was asking about if there were other instruments playing along, or if those were all sounds we were making. And we were saying that there are other sounds happening, but how many layers of cello? And on the first track, again, you said you weren't sure exactly, but on this one, do you have how many instruments were on this one?
I didn't have that. Well, so doom boom go dun dun dun. That's a cello. Then I have dun 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 dun. That's cello. And then I have dun 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 dun. I did those separately. So those are say 4. And then I have that melody. Dun, dun, dun. That's 5. All right. And then I have the dun, that's 6. And then I do a high version of that. So that's 7. And then I do another okay, I play piano. Gong, 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 gong. How the drums in there. Poof, poof. And then there's a synthesizer line that's in there. Oh, and then a synth bass. Doom, 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 doom. That's just duplicating the line that's in the cello chords. So
very cool. So I've already lost track of how many tracks it was.
Well, I just want to say that, like, you know, you can definitely feel your classical roots there, because there's a lot of looping kind of folks out there who do looping, but they couldn't tell you what's happening on any of the track. You know what I mean? Like you're a recall of, actually, I'm doing this on this track, this on this track. Oh. I mean, that is it's clearly compositional.
Oh yeah, I think a lot about it, because I'm like, oh, if I want to score this one day, you know what I'm saying? Like I always think like that. I don't try to like write stuff just to write. Like I don't put stuff on there just until it sounds good. I'm always thinking like, oh, is this the first violin? Is this the second violin? Is this like my modern? Because there's I got like the last leg of my classical music career. I really got into like modern composing and stuff. So I'm thinking of like a modern classical ensemble that's do this.
Mm.
And so I'm thinking that line, that's the synth line, it would be a clarinet that would play that.
Mm. So Joni, good ear.
Yeah.
It would be a clarinet or it would be an oboe.
Oh yeah, oboe.
So, yeah.
If you don't know, that was an instrument I played in high school, was the oboe. So if you thought you couldn't get nerdier than the banjo,
you're be
wrong.
An oboe player. You would be an oboe
You would be an oboe
player.
Actually, someone once pointed out that the banjo is the oboe of the string band world. That it's like kind of like, which I can kind of hear in terms of it being a very unique tenor to the instrument, and then it's also gets a bad rap, but actually is a really cool instrument when it's played well. But and maybe it's just a nerdy personality that's attracted to both. I'm not sure. But I love that you picked out the oboe as one of the instruments that could be composed in there. I'll have to brush up on my skills so that I can do that. And Joni, a bassoon performance major. Wow, I didn't know that.
Bassoon.
Yeah, double reed instruments unite.
Let's go.
That's right. Well,
I want to circle back real quick to another comment that Joe had that I also wanted to touch upon. He was talking about looking at the album art and being impressed. I can't find the comment, but I definitely wanted to ask about it because it sums up what I'm hearing here. Can you talk a little bit about this?
He did such a great job with it. Esan Somercell is an amazing artist that lives in Grand Rapids, and he has a bunch of art everywhere. He has a mural in Grand Rapids, and he's a musician as well. And so I like to work with him for album covers. I was fortunately able to get him for this, and I'm just sending him just ideas of what I wanted. I originally wanted like a black cover, and he was like, nah, we gonna do something else. And so he kind of came up with this whole thing, and I sent him pictures and stuff, but like, you know, he made this, and there's a really great visual of how he made it on my YouTube. It's like, it's just him like drawing this stuff, and you can see some of the edits of like him going back and forth between it. It's kind of cool. I was like, and he made it all on his iPad.
Oh wow.
But he also does like spray paint art. He does like painting. He's an amazing artist. If you check out some of his other work, Esan Somercell, or he has a brand called something SUMN. Yo, he's amazing. Like so he made this, and I want to make a vinyl because it is so good. I'm like, I'm sorry I don't have more songs on this because not. And the back of it is also cool. Like the back of it is wavy. Like he really did a great job on this. And also it's like the rainbow, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's colors, and then the back of it is like a blue, and it just has like a bunch of like lines and stuff. It's like, whoa,
so much movement.
Yeah, well, it encapsulates so much of what you've already talked about with this record that we've been hearing. I mean, both obviously the vibrations, but all the different parts, so all the different hands doing different cello, but then also, as you said, sort of the rainbow and the colors, sort of the more cosmic, scientific, physical part of the music is kind of encapsulated in a really...
Is that like a lightning bolt going through your head there or something?
It does look like a lightning bolt. I don't know what it is.
It's cool.
Yes. I saw. I was like, "Whoa, what are you doing?"
I love it.
That was crazy. And also in my hands, like he has the same patterns that are in the back of the cover, so it's like hidden in there. So it's like the hands are vibrating. And I'm like, man, this is next level.
That's super cool. I'll see if I can find the back cover.
I was going to say, and you said there was a video of the artist kind of constructing this. Did you say that?
Yeah. So it's like I made it like one of the videos for one of the songs called Pendulum. So if you look at that, that's the process of him making the album cover.
Well, we will try and find a link to that we can put in the show notes. For those of you who don't know and just tuned into the Back Catalog Listening Party, one of the things, this is the show where we invite different guest artists to revisit old records, which is what we're doing with Jordan Hamilton joining us today. And if you missed the first part of the show, I know Joni said she came in late. One of the things that we do is we archive all the shows at backcataloglisteningparty.com, and we incorporate show notes. So we include graphics and links to other cool stuff. So
links to artists.
Exactly. So the folks making Jordan's cover art and stuff like that. So we'll make sure to include that in the show notes today.
Yeah, and for those who are just listening right now, we're looking at the back cover now, and I can see what he's talking about with the lines there, and it's really, really cool.
So fingerprint too. It looks like a zoom in of a fingerprint, doesn't it? Or like many fingerprints, obviously, but all the worlds
or a topographic map, like a geological map.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Well, this is being so much fun, and this hour is going way too fast.
Yeah,
so
we got to get to some more tunes.
Oh man, so many things we want to talk about, but right now we're gonna get another track. This is Radiation. Continue our sort of like scientific deep dive here on vibration. So Jordan, is there anything else you want to say about this track before we take a listen?
This one was one of my responses, and this is just in my head. There's a group called Black Violent, and they have a song that I don't remember the name of. I think it's Brandon. I don't know. They have a song, and it's very arpeggiated. And this was my response to their song like that. So it's like, okay, you made this song like this, and I want to make a song like this as an inspiration. But also, I'm very influenced by Bach, and I love how his use of harmonies and everything goes, and the big works that he did. So he had the B minor mass, he had the St. Matthew's Passion, St. John's Passion, all that stuff. And he had chorales in them that he would do for Catholic mass and stuff. So I imposed like a mass dun, 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 over this. And then I did the arpeggios, and it's just, And then I named it Radiation because I felt like this would be the one that's most equivalent to the sun. So,
wow. All right. I love it, man. Thanks for sharing that. That's the kind of tidbits that I just love.
I never tell people these things, so
I love it. That's why we're here. There's a bunch of us music nerds out there that love to hear this kind of stuff. So thank you. All right, let's give it a listen. This is Jordan Hamilton with Radiation here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
All right, Jordan Hamilton here on the Back Catalog Listening Party, and with Radiation from his album Vibrations, came out in 2021. And Connie says wonderful, and I agree. We were both just nerding out during that tune, talking about classical music and how much there is to offer from classical music in the modern music world, that I think a lot of people think, oh, it's outdated or there's nothing you can use from it. And what were you saying, Jordan, off mic, about like this is what you would bring to the classical music world?
Oh, to me, I feel like this was my conversation piece to the classical music world. So to like the people that trained me and like introduced me to a lot of great artists and a lot of great composers. This like because they would see some of the other music that I'm making and be like, oh, but then this would be my conversation piece to them. Like this would be like my symphony or like whatever. Big work.
Also that this music still continues to influence you,
Exactly.
even if you're making some music that not all classical music people would recognize. Yeah. They hear this and they're like, oh yeah, I get this.
Yeah. I put in references for them to be able to chew on and like enjoy. So
yeah, we have a great question from Christopher asking if you've ever written a piece for an orchestra, or would you like to?
I have never written a piece directly for orchestra. Would I like to? Yes, maybe. Yeah, I would. Over time, like I still want to kind of like put more years into like figuring out what style I want to do and making albums and like performing live. But then, I'm making like, because I do a lot of teaching, so I'm do like arrangements and stuff for my students. And so that's technically like an orchestra piece, but it's not.
But it's not really an original piece, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's not like me orchestrating this stuff for an orchestra, which I would want to do one day.
But you have said that you do definitely hear what it would be like to play live, but you're thinking of smaller groups, more like chamber group size, right?
Yes.
Well, if there's any chamber artists or orchestras out there listening, you know it already. You heard it. Get in contact with Jordan, because I would love to hear a collaboration like that. That'd be really
cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And one thing that I've been thinking about, so right now, for those of you who don't know, or who are regulars here at the Back Catalog Listening Party, you know that normally we're all piped in from different locations. And today I have the great pleasure of being in the same location as Jordan, which is why we're doing this together. We're trying to squeeze on a screen in a hotel room, because we are at the Folk Alliance Regional Midwest Conference outside Chicago. And we want to take this opportunity to share this music. But I think it's so interesting having you here at this conference, because the music you do crosses so many genres, right? It's obviously not just folk, it's not just classical, it's not just modern sampled music. It's all kinds of things together. But we were talking during that last tune about, again, how classical composers are often held up in this sort of higher level, like the lauded classical composers, and then there's other things, and then there's like popular music, like way at the bottom or whatever. Right. And I don't know where folk falls, probably somewhere in that lower tier too. But like the idea that that we were talking about with a lot of these classical composers that are held up now, like I was mentioning Stravinsky, but like just took these basically folk songs that they heard at, as you were mentioning, at the bar, wherever, and interpreted them for these orchestra, for these halls. And so it's interesting to think about that here at Folk Alliance, because where people hear old folk songs or songs written by other people and they reinterpret them, and that's kind of the folk process, right? Of creation of music.
Yep.
So
it's kind of one big story, right? I mean, like we're all passing it down, and I appreciate people who like to preserve something in some sort of like a time capsule. But I think as it grows and as the generations add to it, like, the meanings change because times change, and it's important for the music to evolve. And I think that's something I've seen a lot with my favorite folk music in general is that they know it's a living tradition.
Yes, it is.
It is. So I'm going to be so curious to hear you do some of these tunes tonight at the showcase and see how it goes. I know
I won't do any of these.
Because you're solo, right? You can solo tonight.
Yeah, I won't have any of these. But if you catch a trio, then you'll hear some of these.
Yeah.
But
so you're going to be playing different kinds of pieces tonight. Obviously, for different locations, you have to pull out different pieces.
Well, and like speaking of your schedule, you got a busy kind of fall and winter coming up. Are you going to be traveling at all, or?
I'm trying to take off shows November through February.
Okay.
November was unsuccessful. I got roped into some shows from my friends. There'll always be the detriment of you. This show is gonna be great. It is gonna be great. I should do it. But luckily, December, I just have kind of wedding gigs. January, I've been able to say no. February, I've been able to say no. March, I'm picking up shows again. And so my season's March through October, pretty much, is where my performance season is. And I just go through different ensembles, mainly through the festivals. This past year, I used the trio sometimes in the fall and spring I'll use the duo, which is an acoustic guitar, acoustic cello, and then on the offshoots I'll do just solo cello with loop pedal, a drum machine, and all that stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, and also we should mention that for folks who won't be able to see him because he's taking a little bit of a break for a little while, that he has a new album out. So we've been talking about his album that came out last year called Vibrations, but you have a new album out now called Believe In, and that's a Jordan Hamilton record. So it's what kind of styles are represented on the new record?
That one's a lot of like hip hop, soul, and like instrumental. I don't know. It's like
you'll have to go take a listen on his website and check out the new album to find out.
Yeah, I have a big problem with like just having a lot of different types of music on stuff. It's something that I don't think people can feel like safe in knowing that they'll like this stuff. But you know, I don't know. It's whatever. But this album kind of ranges. But it's like it's drum heavy. I got in an accident back in August, and I couldn't play cello for like a few months. And I couldn't look at computer screens and write music.
Oh, wow.
I had to buy this MPC, and I was making a lot of music on this MPC. And that's what this album has, a lot of songs from that time period. And like me just writing words. So it kind of has cello on it, but they were always late editions. Or they were written really recently. But it's a great record, Believe In. Someone just reviewed it, Local Spins reviewed it from Michigan, and they were saying that it's a triumphant album of return. And I was like, it is a triumphant album of return.
Yeah.
It does feel like a victory. And I've been playing I've been playing all that music all summer and I hadn't released it yet, but I was just playing like new music for people. And I was like, I should probably like release something so they can, listen to the songs that I've been playing for them live all summer. So I just released a little short EP, but that album originally, that album cover, I wanted to be a full length record, and because I was over quarantine, I was doing a series like Freedom 1, Freedom 2, Freedom 3, Freedom 4, and I wanted to call the album Freedom or something. I don't know, Project Freedom. And it's gonna be a bunch of songs, but I'll just release EPs, and then what I'm gonna do is like release EP, and then compile that in a full record. So that has like transitions and all of that stuff.
I love hearing you talk about these projects because much like your compositions themselves, you really think about it in the big picture format. Which is we love, because here on the Back Catalog Listening Party, we're all about albums and kind of zooming out a little bit as well as zooming in. We want to know the minutia of how you recorded it, but we also want to think like, what does this album as a piece mean, in a certain time? So I think it's really cool.
The first 3 EPs that I released, the first single I released Better Days, but then the first 3 I knew I was gonna make 3 EPs and they were gonna be grouped together. But the quality of them is a lot different, so I can't put them on one record. I might get them remixed and put them on a record, but the sentence was, for Renland, my thoughts are vibrations. And I knew it was gonna be that.
A sentence.
Yeah,
nice.
so that's what and they're each telling like different stories of my personality. So the For Renland was talking about sort of my spiritual quest. And my thoughts are was talking about like my physical thoughts, and like what I would think of and how I interpret the world. And then vibrations is like, all that is bullshit anyways. So it's just words and thoughts don't really exist. It's like, it is what it is.
We all just exist in this place.
So vibrations. And so that's the period. And so that's why the vibrations has a period, I think.
Oh, this is so cool. See, we would not have known this. There we go.
I see the period now.
And we would have missed that.
I also don't tell people this shit.
Oh, this
is
good.
The stuff I think about to get me excited.
No, are you kidding? This is like, isn't this, Tony, like what we live for pretty much?
It really is. I mean, like for those of us who grew up like reading the album, liner notes and stuff like that, it's like, I mean, this stuff doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? Like there's human stories behind all albums, and there's different people collaborating, and it's a time in history too, right? It's like a time in your life when these things come together. So Jordan, thank you so much for sharing that kind of stuff, because that is exactly what, it brings more meaning to the music too, for those who are new to it. But speaking of music, I really want to make sure we get to that fourth track at least, because this has been such a fun hour. It's gone so fast. So the last track we have queued up here is Solar. Is there anything you want to say about that before we spin it?
Yeah, so this one is part of an album that I was making with a group called Tri Magi. It's the Lasso. It's his project, and so we went up to Earthworks Music. I don't know. It's a farm up in northern Michigan, and we went out there for like during the week of the resurrection, January 6th or something like that.
Oh.
20, right? And so I recorded this Vibrations record in like 2019, and I was gonna release it March 2020. And then, I'm like,
What happened to March?
Sorry about that.
And it was all gonna be 5 songs, right? But then we were recording a bunch of songs for this Tri Magi record with the Lasso, and a few of those songs didn't fit. And these are some of the songs that I kind of had a heavy process in writing. And then Lasso had the great idea when we had to cut these songs from the record. It was like, we should put them on the Vibrations record. And I was like, no. And then I was like, yes, it actually really fits. And this one fits really well coming out of the Bach piece. And then this one kind of, I imagine like floating through the stars as I listen to it. And
Nice.
yeah, the nebulas and all that stuff, and just looking at sort of the vastness of what is.
Okay, go on a journey, guys.
As Joni says, we are Stardust.
Oh yeah.
This is Jordan Hamilton with Solar here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. All right, that is Jordan Hamilton with Solar here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Oh, we went on a journey with that one. And if you want to go on a journey and listen to these songs in order, as you said, coming out of the Bach thing into that,
Yes.
you'll want to get the record because this is sounding great. And I'm not even listening on the good headphones. And you all are listening through YouTube. So you want to get this record, get the high res files, order the CD album so you can get that great artwork.
Mhm.
Go to jordanhamiltonmusic.com. You can check it out. And we also got a few calls from Chris and Joe, folks wanting to see some Twin Cities regulars here on the Back Catalog Listening Party who want to see Jordan at the Dakota. So we're putting it out there in the universe.
Yeah.
That we want to get Jordan to the Twin Cities. Selfishly.
That'd be a great venue for this.
The trio does really well in those environments. But you should. This is going to be a plug because I'm really excited about this video. But y'all, if you want to see the trio, like if you just want to see the live stuff, you should go. And I play circuits live in this video. You should go to Jordan Hamilton Music on like YouTube and then find like the recent videos. It's like a big blue. I'm in the blue room with 2 other people, and there's 2 videos. So watch both of them. But then there's one where I have the hat on, and there's one where I don't have the hat on. The one where I don't have the hat on is where I play circuits live, and the one where I have the hat on is where I play a lot of songs from Believe It. But that's what I've been playing a lot. I play maybe 30 to 50 shows this summer, and I played a lot with that trio, and that's kind of what I think really fits in like jazz clubs and stuff. It's really great sound.
Very cool.
But it's only got like 100 views. I released it like 3 weeks ago.
Come on, let's blow that up, man. Let's everybody
listening to it. It sounds so good. Like the keywords, jazz kids, the virtuoso. And Lasso's like an amazing producer. Like he's world premiere. Like he's a great producer. So it's really cool.
Well, we'll put that in the show notes too, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Go to backcataloglisteningparty.com, but go check out his YouTube channel, folks, because you've heard how cool the music is, and I want to go see these performances with the trio.
Yeah, it's great.
And if speaking of YouTube, we want to mention that if you are watching the Back Catalog Listening Party either live or archived, if you like what you're hearing, and I know I like what I'm hearing because this music is killer, you give it the thumbs up on YouTube. Sorry, you can't see my thumbs. I'm not used to being on the side of the screen. Then give it the thumbs up, direct more bots to Jordan Hamilton's music. And also you can subscribe to our YouTube channel because we do this every week. Sadly, not with Jordan every week, and certainly not in person every week. But we do invite different guest artists every week to revisit old records. So you can get pinged and find out what's happening on next week's show. Connie, thank you so much for tuning in today. Yeah. And I like Chris's comment. We're going to say in the near future that the Grammys remember when Jordan was on Back Catalog Listening Party. Great show.
Right on. Yeah. And
that's what this show is about, right? Is nerding out with us and getting the inside track on these albums.
And experiencing this together. So I want to just reiterate how much we appreciate all of you out there listening and supporting independent artists like Jordan, because it's we need each other in this world of music and music fans, and it just makes the world a better place. So Jordan, thank you so much for sharing your time.
No, and thank you all for like hosting this show and generating this show and like doing all the lead work for like finding musicians and stuff. Like this is really cool, like generating like experiences to connect with music, and like it's really cool. So and it's not easy work, I don't think. I've tried to do a quarantine project too. I didn't go 100 and something episodes. So like creating like a good culture of like giving people access to different things, and that shouldn't go under appreciated. So thank you all.
Thank you. Well, it's our pleasure.
It definitely is our passion project, and we have been doing this 132 episodes. Mm-hmm. Thanks to all of you out there for joining us, and of course the guest artists like Jordan that are willing to spend an hour revisiting old records with us. And a lot of times when we approach people, they're like, "What is this thing?" And then they end and they're like, "Wow, that was really fun." And if you like what you hear, in addition to liking on YouTube, we also have a Patreon. This is how this show has kept going for 132 episodes, is because you have decided that you want it to keep going. So we want to thank all the folks who've supported this show by becoming a member of our Patreon. Penny, Anna, Linda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, and John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Court, Matt, Steve, Mark, Homestead, Pick and Probably 7, Lynn, Craig, Jake, Mary, Many Tracks, and Nikki, and maybe you. You can join the Patreon. We actually have we have special things we have to offer to Patreon supporters, including getting that inside track. One of the things we're doing right now is I'm offering some inside scoops from this Folk Alliance Regional Midwest Conference on our private chat.
So we started a Discord server just for you folks. So if you want to see what's going on, maybe you guys can take a selfie after the show. And I'm sure there's lots of late night shenanigans. I asked both these guys how late they were up, and I think it was like 3 a.m, 4 a.m.
Yeah.
These conferences, they might have showcases that are at regular business hours, but I think the real magic happens after midnight.
Yeah, well, and actually the private showcases are like even scheduled to go from like 10:30 to beyond 2:30. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So like, and so that's like even in the schedule. And then after that, because we're all in a hotel, things, jams can go a lot later. So we'll see what happens tonight. But
I would like a little video, Ellen, if you can, of Jordan. We can put that on the Discord.
Showcase. I'm going to try and catch a video of some of Jordan's showcase to share with you all tonight. Yeah, but also the Patreon supporters, keep an eye on it for our top tier patrons. We have an after party with next week's guests, a special private after party on Zoom. So you can check that out. But mainly, thank you for being here. This is what it's all about: sharing music, talking about it, spending real time listening to music together as a community. That's what this show is really about. And we couldn't do it without you listening, without artists like Jordan joining us. It's all a community effort. So we want to thank you. And Tony, thank you for dealing with all the technical stuff from your while we're just, partying it up here.
My pleasure. I'm kind of living vicariously through through you guys over at that. That sounds like a really great event. Maybe next year we can do a live taping or something at Focal Alliance. But Jordan, thank you again for spending this hour with us. This has been wonderful. Thanks everybody out there for being here. You guys have a great time the rest of your festival. Everybody else have a great weekend, and we can't wait to see you back here on the Back Catalog Listening Party next week. Until then, cheers.
Cheers.